Okay, here we go. I'm upstairs. Don't want to wake the dogs. Frankie and Lily are here. So this one's going to be awfully quick. An issue that how do I put this? An issue I've seen with a lot of clients in the gym, and sometimes this is just being done by well meaning trainers and someone who read an article somewhere that said something that sounded, what do they call them, like logical fallacies. And it's this idea of full range of motion. I think that the saying is full range equals full results. There's a big problem with that. Number one, because it seems like people don't understand what full range of motion actually is. And this causes a lot of problems down the line in terms of what we'd say is results and durability from your training. So let me explain. First off, all full range of motion is, it's just a description for the amount of motion a joint can potentially go through. It means nothing else other than that. So when someone starts throwing out the concept of full range of motion equals full results, usually the problem with this stuff is it tells you nothing. The trainer might as well be telling you a stitch in time saves 9, or when the tough gets going, the going get tough, or how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. It means nothing without context. And I've actually argued those stupid sayings would actually tell you more. All full range of motion means is how much motion, the maximal motion a joint can go through. That's actually more the potential than anything else. If you don't delineate between active and passive range of motion, you're setting yourself up for a ton of problems. So let me explain what those are. Active range of motion is the amount of motion you can create through using muscular contraction and neuromuscular control. So I'll give you an example with the squat. Let me see if I can position this because I'm not in a room I normally do this in. So I might need a couple adjustments, but as you know, this is not scripted. This is not pre-planned. It's just, here's the question and here's my answer. So I'm just going to demonstrate for you. This would be an example of my active range of motion in a squat. All right, so if you watch, I can still keep control over my body. I still have tension in my muscles. And I'm still maintaining actually a really decent back arch here. Now what you'll notice is my active range of motion ends right around here. If I want to go any lower into a deep squat, I have to use what's called a passive range of motion. I have to turn down my muscular control to a great degree. I have to turn down my neurological control to a great degree. And I have to allow gravity and my body mass to just passively throw me into a deeper range. Right? There's nothing wrong with this. This is a great way to stretch. If you're not under any heavy load, this is a fantastic way to be in, say, a rest position. Again, because I have no external load. I'm not holding a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a barbell on my back. So the fact that I'm using a passive range is not that big of a deal. The problem is when you start blindly mixing these two things together under, again, one of these dopey sayings like full range equals full results. Usually this comes out of trainers that have the energy that people want or the body that they want. But the problem with that is it creates a mushy type of mind when it comes to understanding these concepts. Already get too negative with this, so let me just get this back on point. If you start taking heavy loads, weight, not just passive, like I held onto a doorknob or a wall, or say these dumbbells here, right? That gives me some support. I can go into all the passive range of motions that I want and will probably suffer very few consequences unless I get too extreme with it. You start lifting heavy weights, say you're on a leg press, and you start not understanding the difference between, let me just demonstrate this one more time so you can see it. You get into leg press, you put a barbell on your back, and you start saying, well, full range equals full results. And you start putting the bar in your back, and you're here, you're like, oh no, but the Olympic weightlifters, they go all the way down. The powerlifters, they go all the way down. And you relax yourself into this position. Your muscles, your neuromuscular control is so ramped down at that point. Guess what's actually lifting the weights? All that load's going on your joints, all that load's going through your ligaments, and yes, world-class athletes can train their bodies to tolerate that stuff over time. World-class athletes also don't give a crap what happens to their body 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Right? They accept a consequence as a result of their high performance. That's not the people I train. You don't come to I told this all the time, I'll say it again. We follow the Ezekovian philosophy of what we do in the gym is designed to make what we do outside the gym better. We don't come to the gym to screw our bodies up, to achieve a high level of performance, because it means nothing to us unless it helps us do things. And if it hurts us, it's absolutely not going to do anything better. Right? I go and I hurt my knee or hurt my back. I'm not doing the things that are important to me, like walking my dogs. I can't do it with an injured back. Right? So you have to understand is that it's not full range of motion equals full results. It's range of motion you can control with active muscular and neural control. It's not full range, it's full controlled range of motion. You have to understand the difference. I'll go over this one more time. Full range of motion, it just tells you the complete motion the joint can go through. It tells you nothing else outside of that. So when we hear full range equals full results, we've got to say, all right, what am I trying to accomplish? And which one of passive versus active range of motion am I using? You do not want to go and do passive motions under heavy loads. You will pay a price for that eventually. So you have to make sure you only go through ranges of motion you can control. And if you're on a leg press, especially a leg press, because it stabilizes your body, you can handle a ton of load, and you start saying, oh, you gotta go through full range of motion, and all of a sudden your thighs are coming so far down that your thigh bones are compressing into your rib cage, and all of a sudden that low back, which is held in that nice neutral arch, starts to flatten into that bench under load. Well, now all of a sudden, active mobility, which there was zero of it at the spine, all the active mobility in the leg press should be at your hips, knees, and ankles. If you start getting passive mobility in your spine because the weight of the leg press is pushing your thighs into your rib, which is flattening your low back into the pad, or worse yet, it's rounding your pelvis from the bottom up, and you start seeing your butt lift up off that seat, and you're doing that under heavy load, that is not active range of motion. That is passive range. The load is causing your pelvis to passively go through a range and round up off that seat. And now all of a sudden, all those ligaments that hold those bones in your pelvis and your sacrum and all that stuff together are starting to get pounded on and stretched. You will have a problem over time. Pain is not a concept inside your head exclusively. You will get injured. You will hear a pop, your vertebrae will go, and then nice knowing you. Right? You'll welcome to a life of split squats after that, because that's about all you'll be able to do. I got a lot of control of that last comment. Don't listen to it. You might be able to leg press again, but you'll never be the same because you'll stretch those ligaments out. Good luck getting them back into their original length tension. So in a nutshell, you gotta understand if you can't control the range, don't go into that range. I don't care what Olympic weightlifter athletes do. That's why they're Olympic weightlifter athletes, and they pay a price for that later in life. Understand the difference between, say you're on a bench press, right? And I can only control the range right to about here. And if I'm going to get that bar any lower, I got to relax myself now into passive. You don't want to go in. That's why powerlifters say that all the time. Stay tight, stay tight, stay tight. What they're really saying is maintain neuromuscular control. Maintain neurological drive to the muscles you're trying to work. Maintain muscular tension so you don't slip into that passive range. Because if you're lifting max loads like they are and you go into a passive range of motion, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get hurt over time. Maybe not that workout, but down the road. We can't afford to do that with the way we train, with what we're training for. So I don't know if there's anything else. I guess the comment I would make is something I quote him every time because he's right. One of the things Lyle McDonald always talks about is this idea of add weight, cut depth principle, where I think in one of the podcasts he said, you see someone squatting 135 and they're going through a really full active range of motion. But then all of a sudden you put 185, it gets a little more shallow. 225, it's really about half of a squat. By 275, it's like, what the hell are you doing? By 315, you can't even tell if the person's knees are bending. That was the example he used in one of the podcasts he was on. And it's very true. What we've done is we've taken the one idiotic extreme of the person putting too much weight on the bar and not getting to any range of motion. And then we've got people dive bombing down to the bottom of reps where they're not maintaining that active tension through the muscle, and they're going to the exact idiotic extreme, the exact opposite direction, where they're trying to go through too much of a range of motion beyond what they can control. As usual, for our clientele, the answer is somewhere in the middle. You are probably going to find that you're almost always going to find most people that their passive range of motion is always going to exceed their active range of motion. And while you don't want to put so much load on the bar, you're barely moving, you don't need the exact opposite extreme to where you're hurting yourself to try and achieve a popular saying which has absolutely no context or meaning behind it. So that's it. Again, I always apologize for these videos. I try not to research them. I talk all the time about the body recomposition forums. I go on there. I learn a lot of stuff from there. I learn a lot of stuff from my experience as a trainer. But when I get asked these questions or I make these observances, I purposely try not to plan these out too much because I just want to shotgun an answer, and what comes out comes out. So check it out in the show notes. I'll give you a little bit of a little more of an outline to what I really, and I'll give you the timestamps because I know I tend to ramble. And that's about it. Again, forget about the whole idea of full range equals full results. There's no context behind it. If you don't tell the difference between active and passive range of motion and what activity you're going into and how active or passive applies, again, if you're doing gentle stretching, supported stretching, passive your butt out. Right? We see people all the time in the gym, they have really poor active and really poor passive range. I look at Fonzie right now. They have really poor active and really poor passive range of motion. That's not good. Likewise, you see people with really good passive range of motion and no active range of motion. That's not good either. But the main thing is know what your activity is. Know what type of range of motion you're going to use for that activity, whether it's passive or active, and then make the appropriate decision. But please, I know I ramble, please do not go into passive ranges with active loads on your back. You will get hurt over time. I don't care how cool the trainer is or what they look like or how they sound or how much their logical fallacy is. If you can't control the range, you do not belong in it. And an exercise simple like the leg press, you'll start seeing the back flatten into the pad. You'll see the hips lift up in the air. You'll see the ankles lift up. You do not have the active range, the muscular or neurology to control what you're trying to do, and you're going to get hurt, and you're going to get less of a positive result because of some phrase that someone didn't even think out too well. I'm rambling. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you very much, and I will be here tomorrow. We have the Pizza Kumite tomorrow. Right? Tomorrow we've got Newman's own thin crush. That's what you do to your spine if you use passive loads through passive ranges of motion. We've got Newman's own thin crust pepperoni pizza against Wegmans thin crust pepperoni pizza. So it's going to be a pizza showdown. We've got numerous requests from people. JAB out there. I know you want to see some more food kumite, more food fight, head-to-head combat in the food area. So that's what we're going to give you. And that's really an insensitive thing to say with all the crap that's going on in Ukraine. But you guys know what I mean. It's me being silly. I really don't think pizza is combat. I'm rambling again. I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much.